All right, so are you ready? Let's dive deep into something we all think about but maybe don't talk about enough. Sex. Specifically, how to have like amazing sex, right? And build truly intimate connections.
Yeah. Yeah.
We are unpacking a conversation with Dr. Susan Bratton, who is a renowned sex specialist. This is from her appearance on the Diary of a CEO YouTube channel. Now, what is so fascinating about Dr. Bratton is that she's not just about like the mechanics of sex.
Sure.
She's all about like heart-centered, passionate lovemaking. So if you're ready to kind of ditch the shame and embrace pleasure in a whole new way, buckle up.
I am so ready.
What really struck me was how Dr. Bratton kicks off the conversation. She talks about her own experience of being in a sexless marriage. She was having what she called mercy sex a couple times a month out of guilt. And she was thinking something was wrong with her.
Wow.
And it's such a powerful starting point because it normalizes a struggle that many couples face.
Yeah, for sure.
But they might be afraid to discuss.
Absolutely. If a sex expert has been there, it must be way more common than we think. And it makes you realize we need to talk about these things openly.
Right. It's like, oh my God, if she has been there. And this is where it gets juicy. So Dr. Bratton realized that this mercy sex situation was a symptom of deeper issues,
Uh-huh.
including unresolved trauma.
Yeah. And this is where the concept of dissociation comes in. So trauma can lead to feeling emotionally detached during intimacy, even if you're physically present. It's like your
Yeah.
mind is miles away. And it can make truly connecting with your partner so much harder.
Oh, wow. So like you're going through the motions, but you're not really present.
Right.
No wonder things can feel off. But okay, hold on to your hats because this next part is mind-blowing.
Oh.
Dr. Bratton reveals that there are over 20 types of orgasms.
What?
I mean, most of us probably only know about chappy one.
What?
I mean, most of us probably only know about Berteva one. Maybe two, right?
Right, we're talking different locations in the body, various techniques, even tools that can, enhance pleasure. It's like this whole new world is waiting to be explored, and it really challenges the limited ideas we often have about what an orgasm should be.
Seriously.
Yeah.
It's like someone just handed us a map to like an entire continent we didn't even know existed.
Yeah.
But before we get too lost in exploring all those new possibilities, Dr. Bratton brings up a major obstacle to sexual fulfillment, and that is the should trap.
Oh, the should trap.
The should trap.
Yeah, so the should trap is basically comparing your sex life to others or buying into, societal expectations, which can lead to so much pressure and guilt. It's like we're constantly being bombarded with messages about how often we should be having sex,
Right.
what positions we should be trying, and what our orgasm should feel like.
Oh, it's exhausting, and it totally takes the fun out of it. So how do we break free from this should trap and actually start enjoying ourselves?
Communication, communication, communication. Dr. Bratton emphasizes creating a safe space with your partner where you can openly share desires and needs without judgment. She calls this a sexual soulmate pact, which sounds way more exciting than like, let's talk about our feelings.
Totally. It's like a commitment to be curious and receptive to each other's wants and fantasies, even if they're different from your own. But like, how do we actually do that?
Yeah.
Where do we even start?
Well, Dr. Bratton has got you covered.
Yeah.
If you are ready to rewrite your own love story and spice things up in the bedroom, her book, Hot to Trot, is the perfect place to start. It is packed with, tips, techniques, and exercises to help you explore new possibilities and create the kind of passionate connection you crave.
Ooh, you had me at spice things up. I'm already adding that to my reading list.
Mhm.
And for those listening who are like, yes, sign me up for a hotter sex life, you can find Hot to Trot on Amazon at https://amzn.23d.8vfl or through the link in our episode description. Now, back to our deep dive. Let's talk about those couples who might be feeling a bit parched in the intimacy department.
Right, like Eliza and her husband from the YouTube video. They're busy, overwhelmed, and, feeling disconnected, which is impacting their sex life. But Dr. Bratton has this surprisingly simple solution. Start with small offers.
Small offers. I like where this is going.
It's about taking the pressure off, like big romantic gestures or intense sexual encounters, and focusing on creating a safe, pressure-free environment for intimacy to kind of rebuild. It could be cuddling, a foot rub, even just holding hands while watching TV.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's about reestablishing that physical and emotional connection,
Right.
without feeling overwhelmed or pressured. These small offers can be surprisingly powerful in kind of rekindling the spark.
I love that. It's like dipping your toes back into the intimacy pool
Right.
instead of doing a cannonball into the deep end. And speaking of touch, Dr. Bratton is a huge advocate for yoni massage. Now, for our listeners who might not be familiar, what exactly is yoni massage?
So, yoni massage is a beautiful and sensual practice, and it focuses on awakening sensation and connection in a woman's entire body, not just the genitals. It involves like gentle, mindful touch, and this can help women reconnect with their own sensuality and also experience pleasure in a whole new way.
Okay, this is where I'm picturing those intriguing sex toys coming in.
Oh, yeah.
And let's be real, I think a lot of people, myself included, used to be a bit hesitant or even intimidated by them. But now I'm like, bring on the toys.
I think it's a journey many of us go through.
Yeah.
And Dr. Bratton emphasizes that there is absolutely no shame in exploring, what enhances pleasure.
Right.
Toys are simply tools
Yeah.
that can help couples experiment, discover new sensations, and have, more fun together. It's not about replacing anything, but rather like adding another layer of excitement
Yeah.
and exploration to your intimacy toolbox.
Totally. It's like, why not try something new and see what happens? And Dr. Bratt makes a really important point. Sex and intimacy go way beyond just intercourse. It's about connection, playfulness, and discovering what truly feels good for both partners.
Exactly. And that might include expanding your definition of what sex even means.
Yeah.
It could be sensual massage, cuddling, oral sex, or even just making out like teenagers. The key is finding what works for you and your partner and being open to trying new things.
So true. It's about breaking free from those rigid definitions and expectations, right?
Yeah.
And embracing the full spectrum of pleasure and connection. Now, let's talk about a topic that often comes up in conversations about sex. Pornography.
Oh, yes.
Dr. Braden acknowledges that mainstream porn can have a negative impact, especially in terms of creating unrealistic expectations and perpetuating harmful stereotypes. And it can make it hard to distinguish between fantasy and reality, and even lead to feelings of inadequacy or pressure to perform in certain ways.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's like comparing your behind-the-scenes footage to someone else's highlight reel. Not exactly a recipe for feeling good. So how do we navigate this tricky terrain?
So, Dr. Bratton encourages couples to explore their own fantasies and desires rather than letting porn dictate their sexual experiences. It's about being mindful of what you consume and asking yourself, does this align with my values and desires?
It's like being a conscious consumer in every other area of your life. You wouldn't eat junk food all the time, right?
Right.
So why consume media that might be harming your self-image or your relationship?
Exactly. And speaking of exploring your own desires, Dr. Bratton is a big advocate for masturbation. She sees it as a healthy and natural way to learn about your own body, discover what feels good, and enhance your sex life with a partner.
I love that. It's like doing your own research and development in the pleasure department.
Yes.
The more you know about what turns you on, the better you can communicate that to your partner.
Right. It's about owning your sexuality and feeling empowered to explore what brings you joy and satisfaction. Now, Dr. Bratton also touched on a topic that might be new to some listeners, which is ethical non-monogamy.
Yes. Her personal experience with open relationships. It's definitely a conversation that's becoming more mainstream these days. What were some of her key insights?
So Dr. Bratton emphasized that ethical non-monogamy is a conscious choice.
Yeah.
It's not a quick fix for problems in a relationship.
Right.
It requires honesty, communication, and clear boundaries and expectations from all parties involved.
So it's not about swinging from the chandeliers or having a free pass to do whatever you want.
Right.
It's about creating a relationship structure that works for everyone involved with consent and respect at the forefront.
Exactly. And regardless of your relationship structure, communication, respect, and trust are paramount. Now, I know we've talked about Dr. Bratton's book, Hot to Trot, already, and I think it's worth mentioning again, especially for anyone who's feeling curious about exploring new possibilities and enhancing their sex life. It's packed with practical tips, exercises, and insights that can help you create the kind of passionate and fulfilling connection you crave. Seriously. If you haven't already added Hot to Trot to your shopping cart, what are you waiting for? You can find it on Amazon at https://amcn.23di8vfl or through the link in our episode description. And trust me, it is worth every penny. Now let's shift gears a bit and talk about a concern that many of our male listeners might relate to: lasting longer in bed.
Right, like Kit, who shared his anxieties about feeling awkward and not lasting long enough. These are actually very common concerns, and Dr. Bratton offers some practical advice, including a technique called the me breath for ejaculatory control.
Me breath? Okay, I'm intrigued. But what about women going through menopause? Is it true that libido just plummets off a cliff?
It's a common worry, but Dr. Bratton reassures us that fantastic sex is absolutely possible at any age. She emphasizes the importance of overall health, hormonal balance, and importantly, maintaining a positive self-image.
So it's not about accepting a decline in desire, but rather understanding the changes our bodies go through.
Right. And finding ways to keep the spark alive. And I think this highlights a crucial point throughout our entire deep dive. Knowledge is power. The more we understand about our bodies, our desires, and the tools and techniques available to us, the better equipped we are to create fulfilling and joyful sexual experiences.
Absolutely. And I think Dr. Bratton's advice to her 20-year-old self sums it up perfectly. Play full out. Never compromise your gifts and talents.
Wow. That's powerful. And it applies to so much more than just sex.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
about living authentically and embracing every aspect of yourself with passion and enthusiasm.
Exactly. It's about saying yes to life and pursuing what truly lights you up without letting fear or societal pressures hold you back. Now, as we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with a provocative question. What's on your sex life bucket list?
Ooh, I love that.
Hmm.
What are those fantasies you've been secretly harboring? Those experiences you'd love to try,
Mhm.
or those areas you'd like to explore further?
Don't be afraid to dream big and get creative. This is your journey, and there are no limits to what you can discover and experience.
So we've talked about communication and exploring new possibilities and embracing our desires. But how do we actually bring all of this together and create the kind of passionate, connected sex life we crave?
Well, remember when Steve, the host of The Diary of a CEO, asked Dr. Bratton what advice she would give her 20-year-old self?
Oh, yes, I loved that part. It felt so poignant and powerful. What did she say?
She simply said, play full out, never compromise your gifts and talents.
Man, those words really hit home. It's not just about sex, is it? It's about life. Embracing your authentic self, going after what you want, and not letting anyone, dim your shine.
Absolutely. And, applying that to intimacy means like bringing your full self to the table, being open, playful, and willing to experiment. What resonated with you from this conversation?
Honestly, I love the idea of erotic playdates.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Dr. Bratton suggests scheduling dedicated time for couples to connect and explore, but without pressure, where the focus is purely on pleasure and intimacy.
It's brilliant, isn't it? It
Mm,
takes the pressure off, performance
Yeah.
and allows you to be more present and playful. And you know what? It ties right back to that idea of playing full out.
Totally. It's like creating a safe space to be silly, adventurous, and maybe even a little bit naughty. And speaking of adventure, I think Dr. Bratton's insights on multiple orgasms are like a game changer. It's like she's opening up this whole new world of possibilities for women's pleasure.
It definitely challenges the limited views we often have around orgasm. And it encourages women to like slow down, really tune into their bodies and explore, different techniques. It's about rediscovering what feels good and expanding your capacity for pleasure.
And you know what else really stuck with me? That simple equation Dr. Bratton shared. Safety plus variety equals desire. It's like the recipe for a sizzling sex life.
Right. It makes so much sense. When you feel safe and secure with your partner, you're more likely to step out of your comfort zone, try new things, and, keep the spark alive. And that's where those amazing toys and techniques we discuss come in.
Exactly. It's about having fun, experimenting, and finding what works for you as a couple. And if you're feeling stuck or unsure where to start, remember Dr. Bratton's book, Hot to Trot.
It's like a treasure chest of tips, techniques, and exercises designed to help you ignite passion, deepen intimacy, and explore the full spectrum of your sexual potential.
Seriously, folks, this book is a must-have for anyone who wants to take their sex life to the next level. You can find Hot to Trot on Amazon at https://amzn.23di8vfl, or just click the link in our episode description.
So as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with this thought. Embrace your sexuality with curiosity, courage, and a sense of adventure. It's a journey of self-discovery, connection, and endless possibilities for pleasure.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Remember, there's a whole world of amazing experiences waiting to be discovered, so go out there, explore, experiment, and most importantly, have fun. Until next time, happy exploring.